Hello everyone and welcome to another live stream from Kudo Camera Company. Today we are going to talk about the best way to clean your lenses. So there's so many different aspects to cleaning a lens, and I think the main thing is keeping the glass free of debris. So we're going to talk about a couple of different ways to do that and some of the do's and do nots for how to go about that. So the main thing with a lens are you have so many different ways to clean a lens. But the number one go-to that most people will do is probably their shirt. That's not always the best way to do it, but it's not too bad. Let's see, what else do I have? You've also got lens wipes. Those are pretty critical. Brushes. So we've got different types of brushes to do it. Depends on what kind of a deep clean you really need to do, versus if it's a pretty basic clean. And then of course we have the lens wipes. Like the lens cloth. Which I'm trying to see where my lens cloth. I tend not to use the lens cloth, so I don't keep them around too handy. Let me go grab one. Okay. This is some of the excitement of going live. You never know when you're going to have to get up if you forget one of your props. That's all right. So with the lens adapters I sell, if you get the K&F Concept brand, those generally will come with a lens cleaner. They're called lens cleaners, but I tend not to use them as lens cleaner. I would be more likely to use that to clean the camera. A lot of people use those though, and they're really the go-to. So here's your basic lens cleaner that you get. The reason that I don't like to use these are simply because when you use it, it's going to trap all of the dirt and debris inside it. So, it starts out really clean, but then after you use it a few times and you got some of the grime off, now that's going to be stuck there. And it's kind of like wearing a shirt. At first you can wear it one day and it's nice and clean. And then the next day, after you use it again, you're like, oh yeah, this shirt doesn't smell so great anymore. And then after about a week of using it, now you've kind of got like an old ratty shirt. And so if you keep these around for too long, I think they're great as a rag. So they're great to wipe off the outside of the lens. They're great to use on the camera body. But I really don't recommend using them for the lens cloth. They're sold as optical cloths, but typically I don't really think that they meet that standard for that reason. So for cleaning your lens, typically what I recommend, I get an industrial box of lens cleaners, but this is a little bit too big to go into your camera bag, but this is still what I would recommend. Just get the pocket-sized version. This is what I keep in the camera shop. A lot of times, every lens that I go through, I end up having to clean them, and so that's the way to basically do it. So there's more steps to it. We're going to go over a little bit of it, and I would love to see if anyone has any comments, if you think there's any way to improve this or any way that you do it differently, or I would definitely love to hear it. So if you're going to be doing industrial lens cleaning, which for me, a lot of times the lens cleaning, if I get an old antique set of lenses, it's going to need a deep clean. So I'll throw on some powder-free nitrile gloves just to keep my hands clean, to also keep the lens clean. If I'm actually going to take it apart, I would definitely be wearing gloves. But even if I'm getting, say, an old kit from an estate sale or something like that, and I have to go through it, one of the first things I do is I put on gloves, and that's going to help keep my hands clean, and also keep the lens clean. If I touch up against it, that would be a lot less likely to leave any fingerprints or any smudges. So these gloves are really helpful. Plus, once you start using chemicals, if you use any sort of chemicals, always use these at your own risk and consult. I don't know who you consult about this really. Just if you see me do anything, it doesn't mean that you should do it. It's just this is what I do. You never want to mix chemicals. Certain chemicals have properties you think that they're not dangerous, but actually they can be pretty dangerous. Hydrogen peroxide can be dangerous. Any chemical can be dangerous. Alcohol. So I use different cleaners for different parts of the lens. But let's just say we start with a relatively clean lens like this. The first thing that you really have to do to the lens to get it ready, before you wipe it, there's a few things that you really want to do. First, you got to have a blower. So a blower is going to get rid of any loose debris. So if you go ahead and blow anything that you can off, that's going to make it so you're less likely to rub it in. Basically, if you were going to go straight for the cloth, but then there was a piece of sand stuck in there, or even some thick dust, you never know what the dust is actually made out of. You're going to want to use that lens cleaner first to get that all cleaned away. After that, this brush, again, it's a little bit big, but if you're doing a nice fresh deep clean, you're going to use the brush to get rid of anything that won't blow off. And then from there, if you have anything that's really stuck in the corners, you might even use a Q-tip to try to extract it. But you want to be very careful to use this very sparingly, especially on the glass. I don't recommend this for the glass. The cotton's actually more abrasive than you would think, but it's great to get something out of the corner, or certainly if you're cleaning around the edges. The older the lens, the fewer chemicals that you want to use to clean it, because a lens like this, you can pretty confidently put alcohol into the outside without removing any paint. So if I just dip my Q-tip in some alcohol, which I'm getting down to the last little bit of alcohol here, so I can use that on the parts here to clean this up without taking off any paint. So that's pretty good. I don't recommend alcohol for older lenses. This lens was developed, I believe, I'm still trying to sort out exactly when the fourth version was made. If you know, please comment. But this lens was a Russian knockoff of the Carl Zeiss Biotar design, and it was made from I believe from the 70s straight into the 90s, and different iterations. So the 4 signifies that it was the fourth version of this lens. Alcohol, for me, I think it's great for the back of the lens too, especially if it's a lens that, again, if it came out of maybe a flea market or a yard sale, chances are it's going to be loaded with dust. So you're going to need to clean that up. For me, alcohol works great there. Now, on the front of the lens, here's the trick. If you just go straight in with the paper, I've actually, when I first started cleaning lenses, and I had somebody recommend to me to use these lens cloths. They said it's the only way that you should clean your lens, and they talked about how these guys get dirt and grime stuck in them. So I polished some of my lenses with this, and I really felt like I was kind of giving these micro scratches to the glass, especially if there was something really stuck on there. I was kind of going at it. And so I figured out that I was sort of damaging the lenses. And I relayed that information or that feedback back to the person who recommended it. I said, hey, I think the ones I got, they're not great because they're scratching up my glass. So what am I doing wrong? Do I need a certain brand? And he said, well, don't forget to breathe on the lens. So before you use the lens cloth, for any of these paper lens cloths, you have to breathe on the lens. Now that I think of it, when I first mentioned about using lens cloths, I should have made that the number one thing that I said, because you should never use these without breathing on the lens. So when I mean breathe on the lens, I mean to fog on it. So you kind of do that hot breath and see how it's fogged over. Now you can clean it with the lens tissue. But if you do that before, you're going to scrape up your glass. So I just did it again. You do that. It's a great way to see where you've cleaned, and it's a good way to kind of loosen up any debris on there, and it's absolutely essential because if you don't do it, you're going to scratch up your glass. So that's a great way to get it done. Now let's say that you got a lens like this one, and you got it from an estate sale or a flea market, and you're super excited, and then you come in and you see that there's fungus on the glass, and if you're lucky, it's not a highly developed fungus, and maybe it could be cleaned, but you breathe on your lens, you wipe it away, and you see the fungus is not coming up. That's why I have the hydrogen peroxide here. So again, don't ever mix chemicals together. Some people will have you mix hydrogen peroxide with ammonia, and I do not recommend doing that because it has it creates fumes, and it should never be done. What I will strongly recommend to anyone watching is do not ever mix any two chemicals. You can always have chemicals that that you use if you maybe speak with a chemist or you know, the pharmacist, depending on where you're getting them, and figure out what the risks are. Do not ever mix chemicals. But what we're going to do here is basically, I've got, for me, I am going to use a Q-tip for this aspect of it. Maybe other people would recommend not using a Q-tip, but I feel pretty comfortable using it as long as it's nice and wet, not if it's dry. But basically, if there were a little bit of fungus on the outside here, what I would do is I would take this with some hydrogen peroxide on it, and I would just rub it on there like that. And try not to get any excess hydrogen peroxide into the lens itself. But you're just going to rub this. Now, the reason that hydrogen peroxide will break down fungus versus using alcohol or anything else, you could use any other chemical to try to remove fungus, but it's not going to be removed. The reason that hydrogen peroxide on a chemical level, I'm not exactly sure why hydrogen peroxide will release the fungus, but I know that it actually breaks down the chemical bond of the fungus in the glass, and it will allow you to remove it. If you've ever had fungus and you try to just wipe it clean, you'll see it doesn't come off. And some funguses, even if you use hydrogen peroxide, they'll actually etch the glass, and there's no way to really get it fully clean. So that can be a little disappointing when you come across a lens like that, but the best thing that you can do is try some hydrogen peroxide and give that a shot. So if you have a lens where, like this lens here, you see these two notches, if you need to, you can use your spanner wrench to, basically we would adjust the spanner wrench to fit in there. Twisting this the right way. Just a little bit stuck, that's all. Okay. So basically I'd set this in here into these slots, tighten it up, and then give it a nice gentle, whoa, see how these things can be so dangerous to the lens. So I gotta tighten it up a little bit more before I try to twist it. I recommend using the rubber vacuum pads whenever possible. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little, so I've kind of done it twice there. So first what I'm going to do is go with the vacuum pad. See if I can get one that fits right and touches, just makes basic contact with. That one's a little too big. I want one that's going to make contact just with the, so everyone knows what these vacuum pads are. They nest into each other. They're rubber gaskets. I mean, where you really see them are in labs, but more and more people are realizing they're great for photography and for removing lenses. So what I've done here is basically I found one that fits just right in here, and I'm using it to break the lens free. So this one, it's moving both parts of the lens. So what I've done here is I kind of fit my thumb into there to go, but you know, you can use something like that to get into the back of your lens. So So I'm not going to take these elements off now, but I just wanted to show you if you need to get into the back of the lens on the back side, that's one great way to do it. I've had people say you can use a film canister and you just put tape on it. So you put double-sided sticky tape on it, and you do just what I did, but it's if you don't want to invest in getting a set of these, that's what you do. But I recommend you don't do that because it just makes a mess out of your lens. What you do is, if you have a lens that you want to fix, or if you ever think that you're going to fix a lens, or you might even want to just try it, I recommend ordering these and then just sit and wait for a week for them to come in from Japan. And if you get them from this company here, Japan Hobby Tool, they're just really awesome. They ship quickly, and they have lots of good products. That's where I got my first set of vessel screwdrivers as well. So highly recommend them. So I think for now the last tip I want to go over with cleaning a lens is how to use Zippo fluid to clean the lens. So let's just do a great example here. I'm taking on my glove and I'm going to make a big set of thumbprints on the glass. So basically, if you have thumbprints on the glass, they can be really hard to get off. And if you use, I'm going to put my glove back on to kind of eventually get back to using the chemicals. If you use just the lens cloth, chances are it will probably come clean if it's just a thumbprint. But if you had pizza, or if you had some sort of I don't know what else besides pizza, but if you had like Cheetos or Doritos and you made a thumbprint, that's not going to come off that easily. So you probably can't really see the thumbprint on there, but trust me, there's a big grimy thumbprint on there. First, I try to do this. It's smudging around. It's not coming off all the way. I see there's a lot of swirls there. So here's how I do it. Again, this isn't for everyone, so please, I don't recommend doing this if you're not comfortable with using letter fluids. So basically, it's usually got a safety top on it. So I use this as a poker, let's say, or whatever I have handy to lift that up. Flip that. And basically what I try to do is I get a nice flat lens cloth here, as flat as I can. I try to go out of my way to make sure it's pretty flat. And then I get some fluid on there. You're going to see other people have different techniques for doing this. Some will actually put the lens cloth right on there and then pour it. I tend to do it like this. I just like the way it comes out. So then I wipe it down like so. And what you're going to notice is it's going to evaporate pretty evenly. And what it does is it restores that sheen to the coating. It's difficult to describe exactly what it does, but it's pretty cool to see how it works when you do it in person. Now, there's some part of Zippo letter fluid that I believe there's an extra chemical inside it that makes it less desirable than some pure form of the chemical. And I don't even necessarily know if the other version is harder to get or anything. It's just that when I first started, I was told to use Zippo fluid, a Zippo lighter fluid, and I got this pretty decent sized bottle and it's lasted me a while. So when it's time to get another bottle, I'm going to shop around and talk to some of the fanatics and see what's a better version of lighter fluid to use. Or actually, it's not even really lighter fluid, the actual stuff that we should be using. But if you need a quick fix and you want to get down to the shop and you go to the pharmacy, you get it cleaned up. For me, it's worked well. If you know what chemicals are left behind when you use Zippo, I would love to hear your comments. So that's a pretty good review on how to clean a lens. Just in a quick review, we always want to start out blowing blow away anything that you can. Hold the lens upside down so that whatever you're blowing will just go down onto the ground instead of up into the air and back onto the lens. So you just want to hold it upside down, give it a good blow. Then you want to use a nice clean brush for the optics. I use a separate brush for the optics, and if I'm going to go around the body, I'll use one of my older brushes that has been sort of relegated to this sort of work. Some brush like this, you probably wouldn't want to use it on the optics. And then last but not least, I have a really stiff bristle brush for any really stuck on grime. Once you go in and if just wiping it down isn't working, or even using a Q-tip with alcohol isn't quite working, this brush, something like this brush, can be helpful to have. And once you have it all brushed off, blown off, I recommend giving it a nice good fogging and use the lens cloth to clean it up. Now we've got a really good looking lens here, but if you still have a smudge that looks like it's a coating imperfection or some speckles on there that just look like some really baked on grease from the years of use, then I go with a little bit of Zippo. I'll show you one more time how I do the Zippo. Basically, I get a fresh lens cloth, I fold it down as best as possible into a nice even square, so that I have a nice clean corner to work with. So that's basically where I get my corner. I flip it up. It can be a little bit of a pain. Right now I forgot to well, I didn't forget, I purposely closed it, so it's closed. I'm opening it up again. So it's always a good idea to keep it closed, even if you think you're going to need to use it a couple of times. So I just close that back up. I've got some on there, and then I'm going to restore that shine to the outside just by using that. And you see it evaporate. What you're hoping to see is it evaporate nice and evenly across the whole finish. If you see, like I see right here, there's a few little specks of dust that kind of from getting wiped around, they got deposited there. That's a good time to just go back in once more with the breath. I'm sure the mintier and fresher, the better. I definitely make sure to brush my teeth before I do it, because I figure, I'm cleaning these lenses as well as possible, and sometimes they get stored for a while. So if you could use some Listerine to make sure you're not breathing your pizza breath on your lens, I figure every little bit helps. So that's a good review, I'd say, overall. You can't go wrong with getting some of these gloves and keeping your lenses clean, keeping pretty much keeping chemicals off your hands, and doing the best you can to get the lenses nice and clean. So if you have any feedback about it, I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, please check out kudocameracompany.com, or you can Google Kudo Camera Company on Google, and you'll find my eBay store, my Amazon store. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and it would be great to connect with you, and definitely appreciate any feedback you have on the video and any thoughts you have. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. All right, take care.